For those of you who don't know, I'm Maggie, and today I am so excited to share with you some of our favorite weeknight dinners. Maybe you're in a rut and that's why you clicked on this video, I don't know. We do a lot of cooking at our house, but I typically like to make it easy. Especially on weeknights when we're working full days, we want to be able to just cook something really quick that's actually fresh and delicious, and most of my recipes come from like Half-Baked Harvest and The Defined Dish. They are my two go-to vloggers, and if you've seen any of my recent videos, most notably my January favorites, then you probably know that I'm a huge fan of Caraway cookware, so it should come as no surprise to you that I'm really excited to say that this video is sponsored by Caraway. So for all of the recipes that I'll be cooking in this video, I'll be using their pots and pans set and this little baking sheet duo that they sent over. So before we get into the actual recipes, I did want to give you the lowdown on their cookware in general and what sets it apart from the competition. So recently I had to throw away a lot of our non-stick cookware because it was Teflon and it was chipping, and that can be really toxic. I did a ton of research on cleaner options before we repurchased. And so that's when I stumbled upon Caraway, and all of their cookware and bakeware is non-toxic. It's made with a non-stick ceramic coating, and because I grew up on non-stick pots and pans and was just really used to that and loved the ease of cleaning that, I knew that I wanted non-stick pots and pans to replace what I was throwing away. But not only did I want non-stick cookware and bakeware, I also really wanted the versatility, because all of the pots and pans I had owned before had like silicone handles and stuff, so I could never put them in the oven. And because cast iron skillets are really intimidating to me and I don't really know how to clean them, I knew that I wanted my non-stick cookware to be able to go on the stovetop and go in the oven, and Caraway just met all of those specifications. So I've actually spent my own money on this. I got the entire pots and pans set for Christmas, so I guess my husband has spent his own money on this. We have loved it. It is seriously so high quality. In fact, it is a little heavy. If I had to pick out one con of the cookware or bakeware at all, it would just be the weight of it, but you have to appreciate it because it really conducts heat so well. So you're actually not supposed to cook with the cookware on like super high heat. You can get away with cooking on like low to medium because of how well it actually conducts the heat. If you have an induction stovetop and you feel really like trapped in your options, know that this cookware also does work on induction stoves. Another thing that I think is just smart about it is that it comes with special organizers that fit the pots and pans perfectly. You're really not supposed to stack them because they can easily scratch that way. So providing the organizers gives you incentive to actually follow the instructions, and you don't have the issue of losing your tops or having them stacked on top of each other, because it also comes with this nice little canvas lid holder for all of the different pots and pans. Their design is really nice. You can see this little notch on the side here, and this is to keep you from, getting your fingers down close to where it's really hot so you don't end up burning yourself, which is nice. They do also offer bakeware, and I was sent the baking sheet duo, and I went ahead and got it in cream, which is the same color as all of my pots and pans, but they do offer these in much more fun colors. I'm just a classic like neutrals kind of girl, but they have a really pretty pink called Paracotta, they have a green, they have a yellow called Marigold, they have a really nice navy blue. So if you are a little bit more adventurous than me, know that you can add some color to your kitchen. These are offered in two different sizes. So you have the medium size, and then you also have the large. The medium baking sheet measures 15 by 10, and the large baking sheet measures 18 by 13. So now that I feel like you know everything that you need to know about Caraway cookware as a whole, let's dive into the first meal, which is actually a free recipe on the Half-Baked Harvest website, and it's called the simplest zucchini pasta. And it really is. Like, there are so few ingredients, so it's a very inexpensive meal to cook. It usually gives you 4 servings, and it's a perfect light pasta for the spring and summertime. And it has a ton of Parmesan cheese and lemon juice, which just make it so delicious. So the only pots and pans that you'll need for this recipe are the 4.5 quart saute pan and the 3 quart saucepan. I actually take it back. I told you that you just needed to use the 3 quart saucepan, but I forgot that the last time I cooked this, the 3 quart saucepan was actually a little bit small. So we're cooking this entire box of rigatoni pasta, so instead I'm going to use the 6.5 quart Dutch oven. You can really use any cut of pasta. We like rigatoni because it's actually kind of ridged, so it hangs on to the zucchini sauce that you're going to make in a little bit. And then I'll just add a little bit of salt to this, and then I'll go ahead and put it on like medium heat so I can bring this to a boil, and then this can cook while we're doing everything else with the zucchini. Next, you just take your 2 zucchini and your 2 squash and you're gonna slice it up. I typically like to make the pieces kind of small because you're gonna end up breaking it all up and mixing it with butter and pasta water and cheese. And so you want it to turn into more of a sauce. You don't want it in like chunky zucchini and squash pieces. Once you've chopped up your squash and zucchini, I typically like to just go ahead and put it in the saute pan, and then you're gonna cut up your garlic. So it calls for 3 cloves, but honestly, every time garlic is in a recipe, I double it. So we do 6 cloves, you don't have to be that crazy. And then you also need a tablespoon of thyme. So this recipe specifically calls for 2 tablespoons of olive oil, primarily because it's part of the sauce. But if a recipe tells you to put like 2 tablespoons of olive oil because they think that that's what is required for it to be non-stick, know that you can pretty much half it. So if I know that I'm not creating a whole sauce with the olive oil, I would typically go with like 1 tablespoon instead of the recommended 2 in the recipe. I hope that makes sense. Next, I'm gonna add just a pinch of red pepper flakes, and then I'm gonna put this on saute on medium heat. The pasta until al dente, which is basically according to package instructions, but I never set a timer. I just kind of like wait and taste them, and then once it tastes right, I typically drain the water. But I wanted to call attention to this step because you're not going to drain all the water. You actually need, I think, 1/3 of a cup of the reserved pasta water actually goes into this sauteing zucchini to create the sauce. So just wanted to warn you, don't drain it all. All right, so after I drained the pasta, I just gave the basil a rough chop. That's just gonna be sprinkled on top of the pasta. And I typically just use an entire like plastic thing of it, so however much that is. The best ingredient in our house, which if you can hear my dog eating in the background, that's because he gets a little Parmesan cheese on top of his dinner. You basically grate like a cup of this to put into the sauce, and it's really delicious. We always use this microplane grater, which honestly is the best for like a super hard cheese like Parmesan. So all you do is just add the pasta to the saute pan with the zucchini and the garlic and the squash, and then you're gonna add in your 1 cup of cheese that we just grated, and then it's pretty much done. You just squirt it with a little bit of lemon juice on the end, add a little bit of salt on top if it's not salty enough for you, and it is For tonight's really easy weeknight meal, we are gonna have the Defined Dish Cajun Shrimp Sheet Pan Boil, and she puts the boil in quotation marks because you're not actually boiling anything, you're just throwing it all into the oven and it's all gonna cook together. It's really flavorful, super duper easy, so I'll take you through step by step. And in case you were curious, this comes from her first cookbook, so I'll be sure to link this in the description box below. I have talked about this cookbook no less than 500 times, but I will say her second cookbook really gives this one a run for its money, so just FYI. So all you're gonna do here is take your 1 pound of little baby potatoes. You can use any combination of yellow potatoes, red potatoes, I even really like the purple potatoes, and you just quarter them. Once you cut up the potatoes, you're next gonna wanna dice up a red bell pepper. Just a little tip for you here, that if you cut up all of your produce first, you don't have to use multiple cutting boards or multiple knives. So I always start with cutting up the potatoes and the pepper, and then I'll move on to slicing that andouille sausage and then getting the shrimp prepared as it needs to. So in the recipe book, it tells me that I need to line our pan with parchment paper, but because Caraway cookware is so non-stick, I'm gonna show you me cooking it without the parchment paper just to show you how easy it is to actually get everything off of it. So the recipe calls for 12 ounces of andouille sausage that's already fully cooked, and all you have to do is slice it up. Now this is the one that our store sells most often, and it's only 11 ounces, close enough. So that's what we're gonna use for this. We'll chop up all of it and then add it to the pan with the potatoes and the bell pepper so that can cook for a couple of minutes before we put the shrimp on, since the shrimp takes a lot less time to cook. We typically like to use this little Cajun seasoning that we got from Whole Foods, but you could also use Old Bay seasoning, which I think is probably a little bit more traditional. But now all you do is add 1.5 teaspoons of this to this mixture and add a little olive oil before you put it in the oven. I just realized that we bought shrimp that actually still has the shells on. So typically this would be a really easy weeknight dinner where you just throw shrimp on the pan, but now I'm gonna have to spend some time peeling shrimp. So ignore that step. I'm not even gonna show you because I would recommend that you get shrimp that doesn't have any shells on it. All shrimp have been successfully peeled. Timer's about to go off, so we're gonna take out the potatoes and the peppers and the sausage here shortly. Then we're gonna add the shrimp and we're gonna add the lemon slices and a little bit more of that seasoning. And for weeknight meal number 3 is actually one that we cook more for lunchtime. And it also comes from Half Baked Harvest. It is the sweet potato and chickpea Caesar salad. That's not the exact name of it, but that's pretty much what we call it, because instead of using croutons, you're actually using like crispy chickpeas, which are really good. And the Caesar dressing in this recipe is truly what makes it for us, because it is a vegan Caesar dressing, so you don't have to worry about the anchovies or like, I feel like egg yolks or something like that is typically present in Caesar salad dressings, but it is so flavorful, so delicious, and tastes exactly like a Caesar dressing. Like you don't miss a single ingredient. Again, this is a really easy one to prepare for lunch too. So if you wanted to just slice up the sweet potatoes and throw chickpeas on a roasting pan, if you work from home, of course, you can just pop that in a couple of minutes before lunchtime, and then you have like a really nice homemade lunch, again, if you work from home. But this also works great for leftovers. You can just heat up the sweet potatoes and the chickpeas in the microwave and then toss it on top of a salad. So let's get into it. I've already gone ahead and washed the produce that you need, which is really just 2 sweet potatoes and 2 lemons. So you'll use the juice from these lemons in the dressing that we'll make in just a minute. But to start, we'll go ahead and slice up the sweet potato because we need to get this and the chickpeas in the oven roasting. You know how recipes always tell you to wash the can of chickpeas before you put it on the roasting pan? Well, I was always like, I don't want to dirty up another colander. I wonder why they're asking me to do this. So I looked it up, and it's actually to eliminate a lot of the salt that's in the aquafaba that's found in the can of chickpeas. And so you'll notice that when you wash it off, it can kind of foam up because you can use that exact same liquid like you would egg whites in other recipes. So it does still have that kind of like foaming quality. They crisp up a lot better once you do that, and you're eliminating a lot of excess salt that's like found in the canning process. So interesting fact for you there. But next, all you have to do is season up your sweet potatoes and your chickpeas. So we're gonna use 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, smoked is key, and then add on some salt and pepper and some olive oil, and then that'll roast up in the oven. And we'll roast that for 20 minutes. And then while that's roasting, we'll start making the dressing. There's a lot that goes into this dressing, so I figured we'd chat about it. So what you're gonna do is add the juice of 2 lemons, 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil, 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, 2 cloves of garlic, and I actually followed the recipe on this one. I know in the previous week meal, I told you that I always double the garlic. Not in this one because it becomes a little bit too overpowering. So follow the instructions on that one. And then you'll add salt and pepper, 1/3 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. I just kind of eyeball it. And then it calls for 2 tablespoons of fresh chopped parsley, but I don't think that we have any. So we're gonna leave that out. And what I like to do is put it in like a single serve smoothie cup. Looks kind of disgusting just as it is with the cloves of garlic floating around in there. But all you do is blend it up. And so this is really nice. It's easy to store in the fridge if we don't finish it all. So let's go ahead and blend that up, and then the dressing will be ready. So the recipe calls for kale. We just buy ours pre-packaged, but you could do fresh kale and chop it up. If you want to skip a step and you don't want to chop anything else, I recommend just going ahead and getting like baby kale. So now once you have everything in your bowl, you're gonna add some additional Parmesan cheese and the dressing. I know the gloopy dressing probably wasn't the most appetizing to watch go onto the salad, but I promise once you mix it up, it tastes exactly like your classic Caesar dressing and was so easy to make. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you got some good weeknight meal inspiration. If you're interested in any of the Caraway cookware that I used in this video, everything will be linked in the description box below for you. So thank you again, Caraway, for sponsoring this video. And if you like this video, then like it. Stick around, subscribe, join the community, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.